I've noticed that with people who are born into money, it's almost like they peaked really early and now they're just kind of discontent. I'm like, that sucks. I actually wouldn't wish that on my kids. Like I'd hope to get to the point where I could afford to pay the bills and could afford to keep them out of public schools. Those are basically my goals in life, is to have the kids, make sure they're raised well, and make sure that they never have to go to public school. That's all I want. I don't want them to have a yacht. I don't want them to live in a $60 million mansion. I just want them to be sane, normal, stable people who are looking to make the world a better place. And the kind of excess that comes with money, I've never seen people so discontent and like kind of angry with life as people who are born wealthy. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually really glad that didn't happen to me.
Yeah. Like if you have all your best vacations as a child, everything's going to be a disappointment. Like now looking back, I'm like, because I'll go on trips with like my boyfriend and his 10-year-old son, and I'm like, wow, you get a bed. Like when I was your age, I was sleeping on the floor, I was sleeping on a cot. We were in Lake George. It was damp. Like the carpet was just always damp. Like and I know there's something to be said for like extremely low standards, because then you're just like, wow.
Yeah, I found that ever since I started working for Tim, because I'm earning more than I ever did before. I'm like, everything is nice now, and I appreciate all of it. I am so grateful. I'm grateful for my place. I'm grateful to be where I am. I'm grateful for Tim's friendship and the fact that he's taught me this stuff. Every part of my life, I'm just like immensely just full of gratitude, because I can, at any moment it could just go away. And that's something worth keeping in mind, knowing that you don't really have, not like this backup plan, because it's always good to plan for whatever might happen, but knowing that you can't necessarily turn maybe to your parents, I think is an incredibly good thing. I think that especially millennials need to be pushed out. We need to be made to do this stuff. We need to be forced to take responsibility. And I feel like a lot of us weren't.
Oh yeah. I was at a point, well, I'm not an example to follow, but like I was so close to getting into like Craigslist sex work because I didn't want to ask my dad for money. Like when it was like a long time ago, but I was a sneeze away.
Yeah, I understand not wanting to ask for money and being like, what am I going to do if I can't find a way to pay the bills this month? What am I supposed to do? I need to figure something out. I took a really unglamorous way, like working in hospitals. People used to literally wrinkle their nose at me when I told them what I did for a living. And I'm like, dude, someone has to do it. And at that time I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to have kids. So the way I see it, I am paying this forward so that God forbid I ever need somebody to help me go to the bathroom, there will be someone there to help me, because, it might not be my kids. And it's like, I don't know. It's like you do things that are hard because you don't have that safety net of your parents and you don't have all this money behind you. And I am really glad that you didn't have to get into like that backdoor Craigslist
stuff.
Yeah,
me too. I cried in the shower. I was like, this is an indication that I'm not cut out for this life.
You're like, this isn't going well. I need a different plan. And
I want to save my butthole for someone special.
I know.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You don't want to be that kind of person. I mean, that changes you. It changes your view of yourself. And it's like, you kind of want to stay away from all that stuff.
I did feel like my soul was like reaching out and being like, no,
don't do this.
Truly don't do this. Like you'll be a different person after.
Yeah, it's true. You have to maintain. I don't think that modern people understand the importance of relationships like that, especially for women. We think that we can just hoe around like dudes do, and we fucking can't. We are not the same. I don't know what it is about women, but we need it to be like stable. And I think it's biological. I think it's because when your body knows that you're going to have to invest like at least 9 months into this undertaking, you're like, I'm going to be a little careful about this, and it's like, I'm going to be a little thoughtful, and I'm not going to make like these super crazy ideas that, you're not going to make these super crazy choices like guys do, because they can just like, hand it out like whatever, it's going out of style. But
yeah,
I'm like, I'm going to keep it on the down low for sure.
When I was in my like heavy hoe stage, like it was after a very toxic breakup, I think I banged like 20 people in a month or something. But I know this because I kept very close, like a list. Like for me, it was very like conquery, and it was the biggest distraction. I didn't like make any headway career wise. Like And I would go for just bad dudes that I knew I wouldn't get attached to. It was like I was setting myself up for like really unhealthy patterns, I guess. Like,
it does suck.
I just was like, of course. And then you would get attached, and then they'd be like, oh, but it was bad. I had basically formed this like tough exoskeleton. Anyway.
Well, then you have to be like, this is nothing. I'm keeping this at arm's length. And I wonder if this is kind of how people get into being. Have you ever watched My 600-Pound Life?
Yes.
Have you noticed that those people don't just, I know it's a really interesting show, but I noticed that these people aren't just eating because they like food. They're not just eating because food is great and addictive or whatever. They're eating because something else is going on. And in most cases, it's because they have been abused to some extent. Yep. Or they're in a relationship with somebody who is still abusing them and or enabling them, whether it's parents or significant others. And it's like, when you're having a tough go in life, you're like, I'm going to find something to fill this hole in my heart one way or the other. And I actually wanted to ask you, I've kind of been floating this idea around to all of my guests, and I want to kind of develop this idea, but I think I have been pitching for a long time that there's going to be this kind of correction. I've been calling it a correction. I think that culture is going to kind of bounce back to the way it was before. And you and I have already talked a little bit about this, like women wanting to stay at home and wanting to be moms and wives and do some of those traditional things. And kind of like be able to have that single income household. I think, have you noticed this, that religion is starting to come back a little bit in weird ways in places you wouldn't expect?
I think so. I have noticed it. Like, well, I know it's like I'm becoming more interested in it. Like over the last, like, I think year, I'm just like, I think I disregarded, I was raised Methodist, and I just was like, oh, well, church is something that my parents, my mother made me do because her mother, like my grandmother, very, very religious, owned like 100 Bibles. And because she just was like obsessed with them, I had never really looked through one. Every time I'd be there, she'd try to stick a New Testament in my purse. I'd be like, get that out of here. I don't know what it is. But now I'm like, I think it's through talking to more of my Christian friends, like Elijah Schaefer. Yeah. And it's like everything that you're looking for that I had been looking for. And I've read so many like new agey, self-helpy. I love that. I love like motivational talk. And it's like, you get it from that stuff, but you also get it from like great thinkers, like of course Jordan Peterson and like James, and everybody you've had on your show basically could have like a book of quotes. Yeah. And I think it's nice to have like, okay, your cool contemporary peers, like your friends saying, hey, you can find what you're looking for in Christianity. Like, and then like he gave me this book, and it's like, oh, every page I didn't mean to bust this out, but it's like, like if my grandmother had given me a book called Jesus Calling, I'd be like, ew, get it away from me. But like my friend Elijah gave it to me, and like you open up to the day, and it's like, and you're like, oh wow, like it's motivational. And I'm like, oh, I guess it's cool now. So
yeah, it's like that I like, because it's like short. It's like really to the point. I like that it's applicable. Somebody gave me one of those as well once, and I was suitably impressed. I was like, this is kind of neat. It's kind of a really good idea, because it's just something you can do to center yourself. People talk about meditating or whatever every day, and it's just like you sit down with this little book and you read it. It gives you like 5 minutes with yourself and gives you a second to think about your life and get yourself together. I think that's great. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe we really just kind of need the structure that religion offers. I was starting to think about Judeo-Christian principles, because I look at the way the West works, or has worked, I should say. It's not working so well now. I look at the way it works, and I'm like, there has to be something true here if it's built on these principles that made it work so well. Like these ideas that made families strong, there's something special there. And kind of listening to Jordan Peterson, he did like a Bible lecture, and I was like, I'm not gonna like that, because I know the Bible. I was raised in that, and my family was very, very adamant about going to church every single Sunday. We did not miss a week. And then I was like, wow, Jordan Peterson is like taking it in a really interesting direction that I never thought about before. I was like, that's really good, because he's talking about these ideas in kind of the same way I look at the strength that those principles give the West. And he's like, these are ideas that tie to like myths and these stories that run through human history. So there are like deep truths here that are in the Bible. And I still haven't fully concluded if the Bible is the source of the truth or if the Bible is just an expression of that truth. But that was really fascinating to me. And I was like, you know what? It is interesting that people our age are kind of like, yeah, there's something there. Not crazy, you know?
Yeah,
it's not uncool.
That's what it is. It's all about like the delivery. It's all about like the messenger, right? And it's like, if this is coming from these age old ideas, but it's coming from like a source you trust and you don't feel like this person is like bought, paid for, they don't have an ulterior motive. It's like the best. It's like, yeah, people, we're trying to help each other live our best lives and reach our potential.